Over 2023, I have casted 7 European regional level events, played in 2 internationals, and casted 1 too, taking me to 3 different continents. So I've got to see firsthand just how killer for the game 2023 has been, featuring record numbers of tournament attendees. So I thought it would be fun to look at the top 10 cards from the calendar year of 2023. But at the end of the day, it's just my opinion, so let me know your top 10 in the comments below. Honourable mentions: Gudra V-Star. Gudra V-Star was so close to making this list. It's had some incredible results, and it's not something you can expect to roll over when you play against it. But unfortunately, it just didn't have enough raw numbers to make it into this top 10. Regigigas. It's very easy to forget about the utter domination Reggie's had towards the start of the year, especially with its second place finish in Charlotte and numerous other top finishes. But unfortunately for Reggie's, its 4 slots in top 8 of Salt Lake City was actually in 2022, so it couldn't count for this list. And since rotation has seemed to kill off Reggie's at the top tables of competitive play, it has to miss out. Chien-Pao. Chien-Pao is an interesting one, because off the bat I'm sure people are furiously typing at me saying not having Chien-Pao in the top 10 is madness. But when you actually look at its results, it's only had 5 top 8 since it's been standard legal, which just isn't good enough for a spot here. Not saying the deck is bad or anything, but it just hasn't got the resume to make it onto this list. Now this might seem a little bit low for a card that had an immediate impact on our metagame since it was released in Obsidian Flames. But when you consider that it was only released in September, it has had a lot of time to get those numbers up. On the other hand though, Charizard EX is an absolute terror on the metagame, and the idea and thought of staring down a 330 HP card that has just attached 3 energy and will only get stronger as the game goes on can be a little bit demoralising. Well, massively so, let's be honest. One thing I thought about Charizard's place in the metagame though is just how much it's changed in such a short period of time. For example, the first build we saw from Japan was the Curlier build, where you'd rely on Curlier's refinement to draw through the deck and then eventually use Gallade's Buddy Catch to grab supporter cards. And then over here we started to see the combination with Arceus V-Star, which would use Starbirth to make sure you would always get into the game, and the extra energy attached from Infernal Rain would mean Arceus' Trinity Nova would start to reach numbers it had no right to. That didn't last long though, as that was replaced by the Lost Box build, where you'd have access to the Lost Zone engine. This would allow you to use attackers like Cramorant in the early game, as well as Sableye in the late game, and then the big boy Zard himself will come clean up too. And then literally a week after that, it was replaced by the Arven build, which we saw at Kutabo Regionals. This version played 4 of my boy Arven to grab key items from the deck when you needed them, like Rare Candy or Ultra Ball, and you'd also grab Forest Seal Stone as well, to act as another way to search any card from the deck. But even then with this version, there's still the debate of do you play Pidgeot or Bibarel. Bibarel is easier to get into play, since it is a stage 1 and allows you to draw cards, but those cards might not be exactly what you need. Pidgeot EX however is the complete opposite. Its ability allows you to grab any card from the deck once per turn, leading to some explosive actions. However, it is a stage 2, so Rare Candy is needed to get it online, and it's weak to Path to the Peak, which the deck is always traditionally trying to dodge. So with all that innovation, different options along with dark typing, it's no surprise that Charizard is doing well right now. And Burning Darkness dealing 180 damage for 2 energy and then 30 for each extra prize card your opponent has taken, oh boy, adds up quick. Yoga Loop is one of the most broken attacks I've ever seen, hands down. The ability to literally steal a turn off your opponent just by KOing something with 2 damage counters is silly. So silly in fact, it now seems easy to do. This led to Medicham taking home the biggest event of the year, the North American International Championships, with Cyrus Davies utilising it well in her Rapid Strike Box deck. What made this deck so deadly is that when you factor in all the extra damage from Double Gunner from Inteleon VMAX and Raging Alakazam moving them around via Painful Spoons, the Yoga Loop became literally child's play to use. Then the attack would steal your opponent's turn, and with that extra turn you could load up your Rapid Strike Urshifu for a big old attack via Gale Thrust, or even use G-Max Rapid Flow to slam your opponent's bench even more. This resulted in one of the most lopsided finals I have ever seen at Barcelona Regionals, where Francisco systematically destroyed Gardevoir with that exact combination of Double Gunners, Alakazam and Yoga Loop to pretty much stop Michael from ever getting in the game. But that wasn't it for Medicham V, however, since now with Paradox Rift being legal, it finds itself in a whole new style deck that revolves around the shiny new Iron Valiant EX. Tachyon Bits lets you place 2 damage counters on any Pokemon when Iron Valiant hits the active. This, in combination with a ton of switching cards, often nets you an extra 40 to 60 damage in a turn easy. And in the metagame field of low HP basics like Frigibacks and Rolts, this means Medicham can feast again and start taking turns away left, right and centre. We even saw Medicham feature in 2 of the finals here at LAIC, where it even won one of them too. So with 2 internets under its belt, you could argue that Medicham could even be placed higher on this list. Now this was a hard one to rank, because as soon as we saw Scarlet and Violet was legal at EUIC, Miraidon immediately took a hold on the metagame with a top 8 placement via Rob Kimbrough. The power level of Tandem Unit is ridiculous. Having access to a permanent battle VIP pass throughout the whole game, was a bit good, isn't it? This meant you could pretty much get into every game you played, because one Nest Ball would turn into one Miraidon, who would then turn into a Miraidon plus a Mareep, which would then turn into a Raikou V and a Raichu V. So one Miraidon can basically fill your bench. Flaffy would attach energy from the discard pile via Dynamotor, which is perfect to play with Raichu V. An Electric Generator would allow you to deal massive damage, normally for KOs as early as turn 1 via Miraidon's Photon Blaster or Raikou's Lightning Rondo. Since Electric Generator will let you look at the top 5 cards of your deck and you can attach up to 2 energy you find there. This combination of being an all basic attacking deck and having extra consistency from having cards like Arven, which would not only find Forest Seal Stones, but it also find Bravery Charms and there's Electric Generators too, made Miraidon a terrifying deck. But a month after EUIC, Miraidon's results started to slow down, until September, where it started to have a bit of a resurgence, where the path style of the deck was really starting to take off. This let Miraidon be one of the most aggressive decks in format, being able to take KOs as early as turn 1 and have disruption in the mid to late game via Judge and Path to the Peak. This would slow down opponents and be a little bit terrifying too. This led Miraidon to get 2nd at Pittsburgh, 4th in Peoria and 1st in Toronto. And now with Paradox Rift you have the addition of the big bad scary Iron Hands EX. This adds a whole new dimension to the deck, helping to shore up Miraidon's typical weakness, that being one prize decks. Since Iron Hands amp you very much, deals 120 damage and takes an extra prize card if you KO something with it. This is so strong, we're even starting to see Miraidon lists with energy counts as high as 19 and playing Peony to search out double Electric Generator to try and make the turn 1 amp you very much a bit more of a regularity. This can be game winning on its own. So strong in fact we saw Miraidon win the Latin America International Championships with Yuho at the helm. So with Miraidon seemingly at the top of its game, it has to make this list, and who knows when its electrifying reign on the metagame will end. But it's certainly not going to end now. Put down your pitchforks, people. I know it feels strange to have Giratina solo down on this list, but when you see what's above it, it makes sense, don't worry. Star Requiem is the most obvious starting point when talking about Giratina V Star. Having the option to KO whatever is in your way is obscene, with no drawback too. All you have to do is have 2 energy attached and 10 cards in the Lost Zone, and away you go. But Giratina didn't fancy just ending it there though, since Lost Impact is equally as scary. Since for 3 energy you did the magic 280 damage. 280 for most of the year was a straight KO on anything in the metagame. And it was this ease at which Giratina could just straight up eject something that forced some decks to start playing V-Guard energy, just so they could survive the Giratina onslaught. And again, Lost Impact only had to Lost Zone 2 energy attached to any of your Pokemon, so it really wasn't that much of a downside all things considered, especially when that Lost Zoning cost could be satisfied with 1 double turbo energy attachment too. But even if you did have to use 2 basic energy, that just accelerated your Lost Zone, making the Star Requiem even easier. Both these attacks made Giratina one of the best attacking cards I've ever seen printed. And the Lost Zone variant of Giratina gathered 10 top 8s as well as international top 4 and a world's top 4 too. But somehow it doesn't stop there for Giratina, since a variant existed with another top tier card, Arceus V-Star. This Arctina deck would look to forego Star Requiem completely, and instead rely on Trinity Nova to accelerate energy to your Giratina V-Star. Once you had those energies attached, you could announce Lost Impact over and over and over again until you win. And just to help you out, you had that dreaded combination of Judge or Iono plus Path to the Peak, to not only KO your opponent's active, but reduce their hand size to maybe as low as 1 card, and turn off Rulebox Pokemon abilities too. So with Giratina having essentially 2 top tier decks over the year, it had to get a spot here on this list. The mere existence of this card has made deck building so warped. Moonlight Shuriken can single-handedly win a game on its own, either by setting up 2 VMAX Pokemon like Mew, or by simply removing 2 HP Pokemon from play, like Ralts or Curlier. This forces low HP decks to not only play Manaphy to block the bench damage, but it also means you have to find that Manaphy pretty instantly, often at the expense of finding another Ralts or Frigibax, because if you don't, well, the Moonlight Shuriken will start to KO everything in sight. And it isn't like Moonlight Shuriken does like 50 damage or 60 damage, so it just scrapes into KO range. It does 90! This means stage 1s like Curlier and Charmeleon still aren't even safe after evolving. Moonlight Shuriken is so strong and game defining, we even started to see Giratina lists that only played 1 water energy, so they could gain a card back somewhere else, but still feign the threat of a Moonlight Shuriken. That's how strong the attack is. Even the fake threat of it is enough to scare some people to the core and force you to play different. And we've said all that without even mentioning its ability, Concealed Cards, which allows you to discard an energy card from your hand to draw 2 from your deck. This is seen in a whole load of decks, like Gardevoir, Chien-Pao, Lost Box, Giratina, maybe even Charizard, the list goes on, because not only does this let you draw cards nicely from your deck throughout the whole game on a basic Pokemon, but it also gets energy into the discard pile for decks that like it there, like Gardevoir EX. So to be honest, if Greninja had either Moonlight Shuriken or just Concealed Cards, it would still be a strong card, maybe even strong enough to be on this list. But with both, it's a format warping card that quite honestly I could see being ranked as high as 3 on this list, depending on what your thoughts are on it. For now though, it's at 6. I wonder what's at 5. Let me tell you a little story about my experience with Gardevoir EX. I was at EUIC watching a stream after my round, and I saw Tord playing Gardevoir EX on the stream. And I was mesmerised with all the extra card draw from the refinements, and I knew instantly this deck was going to be tier 1. So I ran to the vendors to immediately buy 3 Gardevoir EX full arts, because I knew the price would go up after this event. And fun fact, those same Gardevoir EX got 2nd place at Toronto Regionals because I pretty much gave them to my bestie, Demetrius Eaton. Gardevoir EX is poetry in motion when it's playing. Gardevoir EX is poetry in motion, since the amount of tools it has at its disposal is madness. Curlier to draw cards. You have another Curlier to get, well, more Curlier in play. You've got Memory Skip to disrupt your opponents that only have 1 attack like Charizard EX. Cresselia to heal damage and snipe around your opponent's active if wanted. Zacian V to get big hefty KOs and have some energy acceleration via Roar of the Sword. Screamtail to deal, well, ridiculous heavy bench damage. Shining Arcana to draw cards and accelerate energy. Brainwave to deal massive damage on a 1-prize Pokemon. Gardevoir is so good, there are cards that other decks would adore to play and Gardevoir just doesn't play them. Like Gallade with Buddy Catch for example. Like having access to any support or return is mad, especially when it's on your same evolution line, but Gardevoir chooses not to play it. That's how strong the deck is. Like look at decks like Chien-Pao, who would adore to have refinement on the Artabax or have another Bats caliber they could use. But they haven't got that choice. Gardevoir has many choices. And that's just the Pokemon we're talking about. We haven't even spoke about how versatile the deck can be from a trainer point of view. You got TM Evolution to cheat cards into play turn 1. Temple of Sinnoh to disrupt special energy decks. Collapse Stadium to remove damage from the board. Avery to limit your opponent's bench. And then force Screamtail down their throat. When Gardevoir is operating at full capacity, there really isn't a lot that can stop it. Hence why it's got a long list of achievements like 3 regional victories, 8 international top 8s, and a 2nd place finish at Worlds 2. So with a deck that strong, it seems weird to have it low. But when you see what's above it over the course of the year, it all makes sense, because bear in mind, we haven't had Gardevoir for the whole year. Arceus V-Star. If you were to look up the word consistent in a dictionary, you would see Arceus V-Star listed there. The ability to pluck 2 cards from your deck at any time is so very strong. This means you can essentially get into any game you play, which is a massive upside to playing Arceus. Now once Arceus has set up, it's not done there, since now you can use Trinity Nova to not only 2-shot your opponent's Pokemon, or 1-shot them if they're low HP enough, but also accelerate 3 energies from your deck to your V Pokemon. 3 energy is an obscene amount, and instantly sets up whatever you like. This all-round consistency and regular damage output means you were never really faced with an auto loss as an Arceus player. And since Arceus is very flexible, this has led to it seeing a whole load of partners throughout the year. We have mentioned Giratina already, but I wouldn't even say that Arc Giratina was the most successful variant. I have to say that title goes to Arceus Duraludon. This deck was one of the few decks that could stand toe to toe with the Silver Tempest format Lugia V-Star. So strong in fact it resulted in it winning EUIC. And then months later at NAIC it was still relevant with the addition of Umbreon V Max. So relevant in fact it got 2nd place with Ian Robb at the helm. This is an utter destruction at the international level. Arceus V-Star is so strong, it takes bulk cards like Superior V-Star, Aggron V-Max and Gyarados V-Max and takes them all to glory. Okay, I've been a bit naughty here. I've chosen Sableye to be the front man for the whole Lost Box archetype, but you could easily put Colress Experiment in here too. The Lost Box archetype has earned a ridiculous 67 regional top 8s, winning 5 and winning OC/IC 2. This is a monumental resume, and I think it's largely to do with the multifaceted approach Lost Box can have. Some variants are fully single prize based, relying on Cramorant's very efficient 110 damage for 0 energy, and Moonlight Shuriken, which we all know about already. But some variants can win turn 1 with Dragon Gale from Dragonite V or Lightning Rondo from Raikou V. And pre-rotation, you had the amazing rare core, so Raikou could, snipe around the place, and Rayquaza could literally one-shot anything it wanted. And this is all without mentioning the big man himself, Sableye. Lost Mine, which spreads a sickening 12 damage counters for 1 energy, tearing holes in low HP decks and high HP decks alike. And having this performance while also losing Scoop Up Net is very, very impressive. Lost Box has the only downside to playing Lost Box is that you have to get cards into your Lost Zone. But cards like Comfey and Colress were very good at that and allowed you to draw cards at the same time. This led to a very devastating combination and one of the best deck archetypes we have ever seen printed. It was very hard not to rank Mew VMAX at number 1, but here we are. Mew VMAX has been an absolute terror since it's been printed, and 2023 was all part of that rampage. Not only did Mew VMAX win the World Championships, toppling Gardevoir in the final, forever immortalising itself in the Hall of Fame, but it also had another 2 placements in that same top 8 too, making the World Championships, the most prestigious event of the year, an absolute Mew takeover. Mew VMAX has had 47 regional top 8s and 4 wins too. This on its own is an incredible amount of placements, but it's even more impressive when you consider that Mew VMAX has done this while having 3 Mew counters in format. Klefki turns off all basic Pokemon abilities while it's in the active. This stops Genesect V from drawing cards. Spiritomb, pretty much the same thing, but it didn't have to be in the active. And Drapion would just straight up KO a Mew VMAX for 0 energy via its ability Wild Style and its Dark typing. I'm not sure we've ever seen a card get targeted so much as Mew VMAX by creatures, but it still continues to flourish. Like when you actually consider and list what Mew has going for it, it gets a little bit silly. Like drawing 20 cards a turn via Fusion Strike system Genesect, turn 1 220 damage via Meloetta, counterplay to Spiritomb and Klefki via Fusion Strike Energy, free retreat on Mew VMAX, computer search via Chromatic, computer search again via Forest Seal Stone, removal of your opponent's cards via Lost City, a shred style attack via Max Miracle, bench sniping via Iskew, and ability lock via Path to the Peak. The deck is honestly cracked, And there's only one thing that will stop it, and that's rotation. Now, it would have to be a monumental card or deck to topple Mew VMAX from the top spot. But Lugia V-Star is exactly that. Silver Tempest and Crown Zenith format Lugia V-Star, in my opinion, is the strongest deck of all time. That deck could do anything and everything it ever wanted. Do you want to KO your opponent's active Pokemon with a one-prize Pokemon yourself? Amazing Rare Yveltal. Do you want to snipe your opponent's bench for 120 damage? Amazing Rare Raikou. Do you want to take extra prize cards on your opponent's Pokemon? Stoutland. Do you want to remove a 2-prize Pokemon from your board while also taking a KO? Lumineon V. Do you want to take massive one-shots with a 310 HP Pokemon while also clearing a stadium from play? Lugia V-Star. And bear in mind, you could do all of this, any of these options, as early as turn 2, thanks to the silly combination of Primal Turbo and Summoning Star. The first time I read these cards, I thought there is no way you can attach 4 special energy from the deck. Special energy are normally balanced by the fact that you can only ever attach one of them per turn, because they normally have a high upside of playing them, like double turbo energy for example, counting as 2 energy. So Primal Turbo and Summoning Star allowing you to have access to 4 of them every turn was ridiculous. And when Lugia V-Star had access to powerful energy before rotation, it was the undisputed best deck in format, and it wasn't even close. You either played Lugia V-Star or you played a deck that countered it. It was that simple. No room for anything else. You even had Dunsparce to remove weakness and Manaphy to protect your Archeops. This led to Lugia V-Star being virtually uncounterable outside of massive paralysis lock combination. But even after the rotation, Lugia V-Star was still many people's best deck in format. This time with a new coat of single strike paint. Sure, you did lose a lot of the versatility that the previous version had, but you could still slap the active really hard, with a nice combination of fighting and dark typing too. Tyranitar would KO anything with single strike crush, Duraludon would be disruptive via Skyscraper, Yveltal would uptrade into Mew VMAX or Gardevoir EX, Stonjourner would up uptrade into Miraidons and Arceus, and Single Strike Urshifu would just, do Single Strike Urshifu things. If that wasn't enough, we even saw a colourless version start to make a bit of noise too. That would utilise Weirdeer V for big KOs and Snorlax to be an absolute irritant. And even now, Lugia is still a meta force with Iron Hands and Mew EX. This is a Lugia to have 60 regional top 8s, as well as 13 international top 8s with 8 regional wins and 1 international win too. But those numbers, quite honestly, can't accurately portray just how much of a hold Lugia V-Star had on the metagame for such a long time. And it's that stranglehold that just made me have to put Lugia at the number 1 slot. Because even though Mew had a much better World Championship showing, that cannot be denied, Lugia was the front runner for so much longer. It's safe to say that Summoning Star shone very brightly. If you like this video, why don't you check out this video here, where I look at some of the funniest Pokemon card errors I've ever seen. And check out this video sponsor, Dragon Shield. Use that link in the description and that code BURTS to get 5% off for yourself. Get yourself some of the best accessories in the game and support the channel too.